What if I told you that the way you think about talent, failure, and learning could be holding your remote team back? Most remote teams operate in one of two ways. The good ones are constantly adapting, learning, and improving. And the bad ones, well, they're stuck in a cycle of hesitation, avoidance, and burnout. And the difference often comes down to mindset, specifically whether your team operates with a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. If your team struggles with taking initiative, handling feedback, or bouncing back from failure, today's video is for you. We're diving into Carol Dweck's book, Mindset, and learning how to apply its lessons to leading a high performing, resilient remote team. Let's start with what a growth mindset actually means. Carol Dweck's research found that people and teams fall into two categories. Those that are fixed mindset, these people believe that you either have talent or you don't. For example, people are either born smart or they're not. They believe that failure means you're not good enough and it's something that should be avoided. And similarly, they believe that challenges should also be avoided because they might lead to failure and expose weaknesses. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset believe that skills can be developed with effort, that failure is feedback, not proof you're bad at something, and that challenges are opportunities to grow. Okay, cool. What does that have to do with leading a remote team? Well, here's the problem. Remote work naturally pushes people towards a fixed mindset. Why? Because in a remote setting, you don't see so much of the process. People are often judged almost entirely on results, not the effort or learning behind them. In fact, as leaders, we will often state that as a point of pride. We'll say things like, I only care about results or I only manage outputs. And while outputs are important to lead with success over the long term, you need to build an environment where learning and progress are valued just as much as results. Here's how you do that. Okay. Tip number one, praise the process, not just the outcome. Most leaders only praise results. Someone delivers a great presentation, great job. They close a big deal, they get a well done. That sounds fine, right? And of course, it is important to praise good outcomes. Success in business is about outcomes after all. But here's the problem. If you only praise results, you're teaching your team that effort, learning, and iteration don't matter. Only the outcome does. And when that happens, people stop taking risks. They stick to what's safe. They avoid challenges. You've probably heard the saying, no one got fired for buying IBM. This notion that it's better to play it safe, even if that caps the upside of a decision, rather than taking an intelligent risk with more variance in the outcomes. And when you add up the hundreds of small decisions made in a business week to week, this constant playing it safe can be a death by a thousand cuts for your business. So how do you avoid it? When giving feedback, instead of just saying, great job closing that deal, get more specific on the how. It could be something like, I love how you kept refining your pitch after each rejection. That's what made the difference. Instead of great report, say, the way you incorporated feedback from the last version made this even stronger. You want to recognize the learning, the process, and the iteration because that's what creates long-term success. So in Slack, in meetings, in one-on-ones, make a habit of praising effort, adaptation, and improvement, not just the final result. Tip number two, make mistakes great again. Most remote employees are afraid to fail. And when people are afraid to fail, they stop trying new things. Dweck's research shows that teams with psychological safety, where failure is seen as part of learning, consistently outperform those where mistakes are punished. Google, for example, has post-mortem meetings where teams discuss failures openly, not to assign blame, but to learn. And that's key because when people fear failure, they go silent. They hide mistakes, they avoid responsibility. You want the opposite. You want a team that openly acknowledges setbacks, takes lessons from them, and collectively improves as a result. So instead of asking who made this mistake, ask what can we learn from this? Better yet, introduce something like a Failure Friday, a monthly session where team members share something that didn't work and what they learned from it. The moment you start treating mistakes as valuable data, your team stops fearing them. And that's when real growth happens. And final tip, give feedback that fuels growth. How you give feedback shapes whether your team sees challenges as opportunities or as signs they're failing. Let's say someone on your team struggles with writing reports. A fixed mindset leader might say something like, "You're not good at writing reports." That kind of statement reinforces the idea that their ability is fixed, like it's a verdict on who they are. Either you're good at writing reports or you're not. A growth mindset leader, on the other hand, might say, "Your report was well structured. You could improve it by adding more data or adding a more comprehensive conclusion." This type of feedback tells them exactly how to improve. It's a roadmap, not a judgment. One of the best ways to do this is by using the SBI method. That stands for situation, behavior, impact. So an example of this where maybe someone didn't get their point across well on a team call could be: situation in yesterday's team call, behavior, you explained the concept well but spoke too fast, impact, slowing down would make your points clearer. This method keeps feedback constructive, specific, and focused on improvement. The more your team sees feedback as a tool for learning rather than a verdict on their performance or them as a person, the faster they'll grow. If you want a high-performing remote team, you need to create an environment where learning, growth, and improvement are the norm. Praise effort, not just outcomes. Normalize mistakes as part of progress. Give feedback that fuels growth instead of shutting people down. Pick one of those and try it this week. Let me know in the comments what's one mindset shift you need to work on as a leader.